Diablo is a bit of an interesting topic when it comes to heroes because he is simultaneously most of what's wrong with the game from the very core, but also why it almost works in a twisted way. He's a combo-based dive tank with a minor emphasis on healing, but not in the way that you would hope a dive tank would work. No skill shots, no short range, and no consistent counterplay to his general game plan. Starting from his trait, he gains maximum health for enemy units dying nearby, up to 100 stacks, and even respawns instantly if he dies while at max stacks. This latter effect does come with a downside. He has to lose all his stacks, or at least most, to do so. It kinda has two talents modifying it, increasing the healing from regen globes and healing fountains based on souls held, or granting spell armor, the amount also based on souls held. The former of these is way better, at least generally, though the cooldown reduction from the latter can help it work when paired with certain builds. Diablo's Q is a charge that knocks back the target unit, Diablo traveling with them. If the enemy collides with a wall, they are stunned for a longer duration. This ability alone isn't anything revolutionary, but on a character that can self-sustain, and in a game where duelists and carries can't always build specifically against him, it's annoying at its worst. Sacrificial Soul, which grants armor on Q, is really good for tanking, but in theory Diablo is never being targeted in a fight. Devastating Charge is a great pick most of the time, and the quest is great for picking important targets. Domination is really good for picking off targets, especially if you can land the first Q against a wall, guaranteeing a ton of crowd control time as well as the massive displacement. His W shoots a fan of 5 line projectiles that pierce all units, then come back to him. They heal him just a bit based on damage dealt, and do a good bit more damage on the way back. Now it is his only base kit way to heal, and it sounds a little inconsistent, but I promise that it's big enough to hit a couple people per cast, and it doesn't do enough damage to warrant paying that much attention to anyways. It's common to build for this ability because by being the farthest forward and biggest body in the fight, he will take some damage and thus want to heal more. Souls to the Flame makes it much more viable as a healing ability, increasing the amount of healing based on souls held. Eternal Flames resets the cooldown every time he stuns, which means he's healing more for doing what he does. This is probably the better design of his talents and kinda works in the raid boss fantasy, but as I mentioned earlier, the counterplay is kinda non-existent for it, so... Debilitating Flames is not that bad in theory. Hitting his W stacks a slow, and enough slow reduces their damage dealt, but this is the epitome of unreliable, which is absolutely not what you want for frontline talents. A 60% slow and reducing damage by half is like certain death for anyone who can't teleport or dash completely out of Diablo's range, which is pretty close to everyone in the game. But generally multiple targets are only getting hit once or twice per cast, so it will only take effect if he stuns someone against a wall and hits them with the start of a W, which won't heal him much, making it a choice to fulfill his role or to use this talent to help his team. Diablo's E flips the target unit to the other side of Diablo, though it has a melee cast range. It is insanely strong when combined with his Q to either position an opponent to the perfect spot and stun them against the wall, or to use after a Q wall stun to keep the opponent near his team to kill. I think this ability, more so than Q, is a problem, because he really does not struggle to get in. It would be fine if he didn't have his Q and had to work to get in, but since every character moves at the same speed, it's not really a thing to consider, since it's possible for a Juggernaut to get kited forever without a dash. But when a Juggernaut has a dash, then it becomes a bit of an issue because there's no keeping them out to counterplay their game plan of sticking to someone. The only talent for exclusively this ability grants a second charge, which is very strong against heroes with dashes and blinks that would cause them to get out of Diablo, comboing them into his team. His first ult creates an AoE under every opposing hero on the battlefield regardless of distance, popping after 1.75 seconds, stunning enemies for the same duration if they are hit. It's not a good ultimate, but he can guarantee it on someone if they're standing close to the wall and Diablo has both of his CC abilities up. It combines well with other ultimates that keep opponents in place for a while, but niche at best. The Storm talent for it reduces the cooldown on hit and grants a free cast on death, which hypothetically could help in a comeback situation, but still not really helpful when he's supposed to be the one dying last. It also will likely only hit one person guaranteed unless you have one of the niche combo ults to make it useful. Diablo's second ult is a channeled ability where Diablo spews fire constantly over 4 seconds while unstoppable, dealing good damage and applying a stackable slow. It has a little startup, so it's not easy to just stop and pop on a retreating opponent, but when he's out of abilities in a fight, it's not that bad to get what damage he can out. If he's at a choke point, he can also body block while unstoppable, which can definitely be a difference maker in the right spot. The Storm talent makes the duration much longer, which can definitely help in a fight, especially for the slow. The bulk of his talents, though, are ones that affect both his Q and his E, since he's mostly about the idea of this combo. Feast on Fear is usually pretty useless, as Diablo won't wait 3 whole seconds between using his Q and E to get good usage of this talent. Diabolical Momentum has a greater general use, especially if he's not only building for W, but this talent pays off at a later level if he grabs Cruelty, and then he becomes an extremely low cooldown CC bot on one person, tossing them around like a ragdoll every second or so. He could grab Debilitating Flames next level just to be sure that they can't run away in the event they don't have a major self-heal ability. Other than the combo talents, the remainder is basic attack enhancements that kinda make for a build for dueling, but I'd prefer crowd controlling an opponent for the duration of their entire health bar. All in all, this dude's pretty good, and if there's only one carry, or a healer with particularly bad mobility, then he can go to town tossing them like an Olive Garden salad. If he has to deal with multiple carries, he can pretty easily get ground down or even just crowd controlled a little and focused by the team pretty easily, since Diablo will be pretty far from his team, generally.